Now the last session to complete your mock exam, and as you know, I have done far beyond the mock exam to prepare you for any type of question in a limited session. I can't say today in this series of video, probably fourth one, that there is lot of preparation for you in terms of analyzing, applying knowledge and specifically writing. So probably during next 45 minutes what we are going to look at in the mock exam paper, the question that deals with, there are several questions. One is integrated reporting. So I will do a refresher to refresh your understanding about integrated reporting, which is a fantastic part of your syllabus, and then we will also connect with ethics, question relating to ethics, and cover that. So before I start reading the question, let's see straight away the question that is given from integrated reporting, and then we will activate our knowledge about integrated reporting. So let's go to the paper and see the question that deals with integrated reporting, right. So let me to go there. Yeah, this is the question. It's a part of I think question number 2, and that this part. Yeah, part C. Yeah, Delta Exploration Private Limited engaged in exploration. Now see, this is a good case study, because see, when it comes to integrated reporting, the whole idea is you would have heard this word ESG, environmental, social and governance, and then environment is a bigger topic, and when it comes to exploration, definitely that type of a business has a direct impact on environment. And then unless they are mindful about environmental consequences, they cannot be a very successful company, right. So exploration company, they have various these things, granite and all of that. With the success of the company in recent years, top management trust it is in the best interest to list the company in the stock exchange. So they are going to list, and that, remember, in integrated reporting and sustainability reporting, right, there are several leading investors. These investors are billion-dollar investors, various pension funds, all bigger investors, institutional investors. They demand ESG reporting, or the integrated reporting for that matter, because non-financial is going to account for bigger part of companies' balance sheet will capture, according to some research, they say about 20%, right, whereas balance 80%. The entire story of making money can be connected through integrated reporting. So therefore, one of the benefit is, even there can be another exam question, benefits, right. So there is increasingly stakeholder expectation that the company's activities should not be harmful to the environment, and how company has created value, right, using the 6 capital is about integrated reporting. That's just a quick reminder. Now this one, managing director of the company has sent a financial controller following email, right, implementation of integrated reporting. Okay, I understand that Andrew is writing as an email to you, right. Okay, implementation of integrated reporting. I understand that you are now finalizing quarterly statement. 30th September, you should be aware about our main rivals in Sri Lanka face. Now see, this is a good example, right. They face legal charges, and because it's heavily criticized over social media on unsustainable drilling carried out. Now this is a very good example to see how not value creation, how value has been destroyed by this company. So, when I explain the answer, I will give you a refresher to integrated reporting taken 5-10 minutes, but this is rather than creating value, this is about destroying value, and the competitors are doing this, and that has been criticized, which means if you look at the 6 capital, right, you can't run a company from only money, right, especially your relationship capital, social capital, they are going to be negative in this case, and including natural capital. So, 3 capital going to be negative here. As a result, director advised the board to set aside an amount equal to 15% of the profit to mitigate. Now, that is a wonderful thing. So, you spending money to make sure that environmental and social cost, right, arising from exploration or any issue can be mitigated. Even their directors now, this is at a governance and strategy level. Now, see, remember these words when you happen to explain integrated reporting, you have to use four words, right. So, what are these 4 words in integrated reporting, and I am sure in the answer you can write that, right. So, the 4 word is about governance, and that is the effort of board. And then what is your strategy? As a part of exploration, you are putting aside money, right, that is the resource allocation, right, governance strategy, and how you have performed in terms of your KPIs, right, and then how the future looks like. Remember, you cannot explain integrated reporting without these words, and then integrated reporting is about how these 4 create value in the short run to medium run to long run on a sustainable basis, right, using the business model, right, and the value creation can be explained through 6 capital, right. So, that is the whole idea, right. So, this was unanimously approved by the board alongside the decision to undertake a formal environmental risk assessment also they are going to do, right, by a third party. You see, that is a very important thing when it comes to social capital and third party report. In a further attempt to promote company's operation in public, especially with our plans to list Delta in Colombo Stock Exchange to illustrate. Now, this is what I mentioned, future investors, they are considering company, environmental seriously, board is considering to fully adopt integrated reporting, because if you remember, corporate governance is a part of your syllabus. Sri Lanka Corporate Governance Code says when it comes to ESG reporting, company can either use GRI or the GRI platform or integrated reporting platform, right. It was discussed in the last board meeting to include findings from the environmental risk assessment into the report. So, that is very good. I have attached several articles I found in internet that may be useful. He has attached Sri Lanka, how they are perceiving integrated reporting. I believe it would be useful to discuss this at earliest opportunity. Now, this is a very good question, the way it is structured, and now if you look at the question, you have to write an email, right, detailing the concept of integrated reporting. Wonderful. How do you explain integrated reporting to somebody, and how an integrated report covering 6 capital provide insights on the company's operation for the stakeholder of Delta, right. You see this point, in the question you have to address the concept of integrated report in one, and then second one, how an integrated report in covering 6 capital. That means in the answer definitely you have to at least talk about 6 capital. As a student preparing for exam, if I ask you now, what do you mean by people capital, right, or human capital? Now, if you get stuck, this is not in the open book also, right, then you have to think. Human capital refers to competency of people, their experience, right, knowledge, competency, experience, how that is going to help the company's strategy, right, and the culture, all of that, and create value. So, like that you should have an explanation, and that is where you have to study this topic passionately, and then you can easily remember this meaning. 6 capital, and especially with the plan to list in, that is all for 8 marks. So, it is a basically conceptual question, and in the answer, if you structure this answer, right, so what you need to mention now again, if you want to see, we can take another sticky note that we used today, and let us say, let us put it yeah, different color, right. And now what answer I should write for 8 marks, right. You answer for this IR, now it's an email, right. You have to say from you are a financial controller too, and subject is implementation of IR, right. So, the in the email, right, you may have some introduction which I am not going to write here, but what is to be clarified, right, what IR, right, what is integrated reporting and why it is important, right, that should be first part of your answer, and then probably to explain how 6 capital, right, creates value, right, through business model, right, and that part you have to explain each capital, right. You know, you can't make money only from financial capital, you need machinery. Financial capital, what is the explanation? It's a pool of funds, right, available to company, right, that is financially for them to invest, and this can come from equity, debt, etc., right. That is that manufactured company is all mostly about tangible, right, you know, property, equipment, you know, you can even say PP, things like that, you know, and then intangible capital, and that intellectual capital has lot of things, you know, organizational, you know, you can, easy example would be things like copyrights, the trademarks, right, and then there are organizational wide policies, sorry, the unique processes, all of that, you know, can come here. I will show you all of this, and like I said, human capital deals with competencies of people and experience. This is theory, right, you can't only write theory in your answer, right. So, then you have natural capital as well as social and relationship capital. Now, all this capital as input, right, create is going to create output, and from the output you create outcome, right. So, now you have to explain this in your answer, and then each of the explanation should be connected to the case study. So, that is what you have to do. So, to give some context, I will go back to my presentation, and I want to give you the bigger context, right. So, if you remember, I said you cannot explain integrated reporting, right, without these 4 words. So, in the answer you have to say integrated reporting is a concise communication about 4 things: strategy, governance, performance and prospects, right. Where does it work in the context of external environment, how it could lead to value creation, right, in the short run, from short run, medium to long run. As you see in the middle of the and content point of view, in the middle you can see the business model, and that these are the 6 capital, right. These 6 capital act as the input, and through business activities input becomes output, and output is coming as outcome, as creating or eroding value, and that has to work together with governance, right, strategy, performance, outlook, and then the risk management is an important part as a part of this process, and then company has to work within the external environment, right. So, that is essentially a part of your answer, right. So, when you explain this answer, I do not take a lot of time to do a theory session, and now because time is limited, and even every minute you spend you should be able to, you know, get marks. That's the kind of study strategy that you have. So, what are we going to write in the answer? I already mentioned, you can say that this definition has to come in your answer, right, because integrated reporting explain as the company's main business is about excavation and drilling, and that is going to have environmental impact, and therefore, there is a possibility that if you look at the next slide, especially this slide, right. Now, see, I mentioned to you through the 6 capital, and the business activity is about exploration, drilling, and that they use money, machinery, they use their own processes, right, unique processes that they have within the organizational intellectual capital, tacit knowledge, all of that, and then with the knowledge and experience of the people, and then they are using the nature for this excavation is on the earth, and this is natural resources, and then they deal with the people, the society, right. And then the thing is, with the exploration activity, there is output, it may be oil, but the issue is some of these outcome, like the competitor. Now, in your answer you have to comment about the competitor, right. For example, the competitor's unsustainable drilling has affected the natural environment, and lot of trade unions and other environmental advocates or activists, they are worried about the company, and that's tarnishing the company's reputation, right. That's how you have to connect, the answer here. So, therefore, like I said, in the interest of time, I don't explain integrated reporting now in much detail. So, in the first part of the answer, you need to mention. Now, if you want to write down the answer, what are you going to say? Integrated reporting is a concise communication about these 4 things, how those 4 things in the context, because you have to operate in the external environment where there is a government, whether there is a competitor, all of that, how do you create value? So, when it comes to delta, because the company's business model primarily involves in environmental activities, right, and that recent media criticism on competitors, right, to build the investor confidence, right, preparation, implementing integrated reporting is useful. I am reading the answer, right, is going to be strategically valuable for company. Further, this will enhance investor confidence, where investor will recognize the company as socially responsible company. That is your introduction part of the answer. And then if you remember, in the question they also ask that you need to write this, we explain the concept, right. Then you have to say how 6 capital, right, provide insight on company's operation to stakeholder, which means in this part of the answer you need to talk individually about each capital and talk about delta, right. Now, if you remember my answer, which I started writing the sticky note, the first point, if you are writing this in one sentence, you will say financial capital. I am writing the answer, right. Even if I am writing the answer, I will write here the sentence, financial capital, right, refers to pool of funds that is available to company in the form of equity and debt, and having a strong financial capital base provides investor confidence that the company has sufficient funds which need to be allocated to their future expansion strategies, etc., right. Further, company has allocated X amount of money, right, to take care of any incidents arising from their business model. That is a very important part that you can write under financial capital explanation in the answer. I can, like I did earlier, start writing this answer in Word document, in this document, but it will take time, but I don't want to waste your time, but I did that and show you. Now, therefore, likewise you have to explain these other 6 components. As a refresher, I will first explain the meaning of these 6 through these slides, and I will also tell you what should you write for delta, right, in this out of this capital. Now, see, even I am extracting this note from a book from the Integrated Reporting Handbook published by the Institute, right, and these are the notes. See, financial capital we already covered, right. So, you can write at least one part of this sentence, pool of funds that is available, debt, equity, grants, and so on, and then write 2 points about delta. Having capital is going to build the confidence. Secondly, company has also set aside, as they given in the case study, they have set aside some money that can be utilized is in case of 15% of the profit, that is again allocation of money, right. Then the manufactured capital you answer has to describe is about physical objects and that are available for the company to use in the production, and there you can write a statement about Delta as Delta is a capital intense company and they have to significantly invest in machineries for drillings and other manufacturing capital, including their plants, right. The extent to which they invest is going to helpful in their volume of drilling and the quality, when I say quality, the quality of the equipment is really going to be helpful. That is part that you can write about Delta, especially some introduction about what is manufactured capital in your answer to say manufactured capital refers to physical and tangible things which are used in the production. For Delta it is mostly this, that is all. Then the natural capital is very important for Delta. There you must say that this involves renewable and non-renewable environmental resources, as Delta is totally their business model directly connects to the natural capital, right, and areas like this excavation is all about natural resources, and they have to be mindful to do this on a sustainable manner. Please comment there how competitor has done this activity in an unsustainable manner and that has affected competitors' reputation is something you can touch here. Then when it comes to intellectual capital, at least remember these headings. Like I mentioned to you, intellectual capital does not only means trademark and brand, but it means things like organizational wise policies, processes, systems, intellectual capital in terms of this is I explained to you technology, IT system, R&D, and there you can see the company has to Delta has to invest, they have a good brand. Now see, even in the case study they have given some information about Delta, right, and that the fact that they are going to be a listed company, and they have not given much information, but you can generally talk about having intellectual intangible assets will help Delta to perform better than the competitor. And the next thing is about human capital. That is very, very important for Delta, that because definitely they need people who are specialized, competency, capability, that and experience, and that motivate them to perform better, and that is going to add value. So that include whether the human resource policies are aligned with the business objectives and strategy, their policy and culture of innovation, things like that. So that is the part of human capital. Again, in general you can talk about Delta, given the speciality or specialized nature of the business model, they need to spend adequate funds as well as organizational effort to retain these key people and to train them, educate them through the HR policies and procedures and through a culture of innovation. That is you can explain here. And when it comes to social and relationship capital, you can certainly write that because competitors' activities that the society has a negative image because of their unsustainable practices, therefore Delta should definitely, this is an important opportunity for Delta to come out as a company, to improve their reputation as a company which is more responsible for their social consequences. So there you can again connect to that point. I think that is what you have to write. And even if you go by the suggested answer, you can see a similar answer is kind of given in this section. If I just show you that, yeah, see this answer, right. Now see, you are right in the email, and what is integrated reporting, and this the words I emphasize: environmental, social, governance, right, ESG, and this is the definition, right, about 4 things. Actually you can write the full thing: strategy, governance, performance and prospects. right, in the context of, I think, good to give that holistic explanation. And then and like I said, it's really helping to attract investors and to be more informed about company's prospect. You can also say that, you know, be very sensitive to case study, right. The company has already started doing an environmental risk assessment. This will show the stakeholders that how responsible they are, and this is going to improve their reputation, is also something that you can write in the top part. The balance part of the answer should talk about capital, and also better you have to say as a concept in a third paragraph to say that how integrated reporting work using the capital. So, essentially capital are the resources that is used in the business model to create value, and that is a similar explanation here. Capital and increase or decrease in the capital can be explained, right, for each type of the capital, right. And then the measuring and monitoring the 6 capital is very important for value creation, and all the explanation are same as what I explained to you. You know, pool of fund that is available, that's financial capital, and I said that's very important for potential investor to boost their confidence, and manufactured capital is all about tangible assets, that's it. Intangible is, you know, helpful in their long term value creation. But remember, in addition to this R&D that what we discussed, intangible also cover organizational resources like unique policies, processes that they have, and human resources about specialization, competency, experience, and how that is going to help. And also good to mention about the culture, natural capital. Now, this is where they refer to the case study, right. And because they are doing competitor, right, this is from the case study. Now, always is good in a question to connect your answer to a case study, right. So, that is that. And social and relationship capital, that is about integrated reporting. Now, we are left with 2 questions, a small question, and that is 2 or 3 I guessed. And there are one question, if you remember, from Nokla. I think we will go to that question next, right. So, I will show you this slide. If you remember the question from the case study, and that is recommend the course of action taken by the CFO in respect of Nokla, right. Issued by the International Ethics Board. It is not only international, even Chartered Institute in the ethics books, Nokla is included. So, in nuance you can be very specific if you want to give a very sharp answer. Remember, this is the section of Nokla applicable to senior business accountant. That is very important. I think even that has to be mentioned. That is the correct way of writing this answer, right, because you are a senior business accountant. Nokla is very, very simple, right. Now, if I take another sticky note, right, and write this answer, Nokla, see, a good student, they are very sensitive to, you have to ask whether, when I say good student, whether you are a good student, right. Good student, when they want to, when they are studying for the exam, they are very sharp on their technical aspects. So, Nokla, if you want to say, is about, as ethical principle, what is expected from Nokla is to ensure that, you know, as an accountant, how do you discharge your responsibility in relation to your company complies with laws and regulation. And if you are aware about actual or suspected non-compliance, what are you going to do, right? And then the Nokla specially brings to light certain fundamental principles like integrity and even professional behavior, because if you are a part of, you know, violation of law, one is you are straightforward and honest, you know, to bring to light anything that is wrong. The other important thing is your professional behavior, right. Now, let us say even in this company, you have to apply Nokla, I will show you the page references, right. Nokla applicable to senior business accountant. Right. Now, see, usually what should happen when there is, now in this case a production manager has told that in yogurt or some production that they have not followed the quality standard, and that, you know, this is going to result in a consequence, some consequences, right. So, therefore, first thing that you need to do is to understand the matter. You may have to study this in depth, understand the circumstances in which this has happened. You may want to refer to the quality certification and see whether this results in penalty, all that you have to understand. And then the next, see, I am only writing one word, right. Next is, okay, having seen a issue, right, your job is probably to discuss with the same person, maybe head of production or operation director or somebody, and say that, look here, this is not good, right. Discuss and advise that we have to either stop this and do something to prevent this. And then if they do not take any of the action, that then you need to really evaluate, right, what need to be done next, right, evaluate the actions taken by your company, and then you may decide to take further actions. And especially in this further action, you have to look at the public, whether this matter is something to do with public interest, and definitely this is a food company, and that if there is something wrong, that will affect the public at large. And then the worst scenario, right, looking at the public interest, if nobody is listening to you, you may decide to inform the regulator. That is it, that is the answer. You see how powerful, if you know the subject, how easily you can answer. The same answer you will write here also. So, I will show you in my slide specific with page references to this point, and even I have given you the page reference, especially if you are a senior business accountant. You need to understand the nature and the circumstances, discuss with the immediate supervisor. If you are a CFO, maybe your finance director or another director, audit committee, and then take further steps to communicate this to the board of directors. You are a CFO, serious person, right, and and also take steps to comply if there is a consequences. So, if there are penalties to be paid or something, anything that you can do at your level, you do that, and then determine further action. And as a further action, that you have to look at what the company has done based on what you said. If company has not done anything, you even question the honesty and culture of your company, and then what you need to do is further action. As a matter of further action, you will disclose this to the parent company or head office or resign, and then you have to also see whether you are going to inform to regulate, and very important that you document the result. That is the answer for NOCLA, right. So, this is the proper answer, properly aligning to senior business accountant and explain the note. And then there is a last question that we have now fully covered the 50 marks case study, the relevant question in relation to the area that I am covering. And then I want to show you there are another question on ethics, which is a very easy question if you apply ethical conflict. We can take that question also now, and this is the ethical dilemma for 5 marks. So, then we do not need to spend a lot of time, but the important point is, if you do not know AAA, you will not get all 5 marks. So, what is AAA approach? And even if you do not know AAA, you have forgotten, and if you are a smart student, you should be able to go to your open book and see open book has a similar heading, and that heading is called ethical conflict resolution. Maybe during first 5 pages of the book, I do not have the book with me now, the heading is ethical conflict resolution. Right. So, when there is ethical conflict resolution, how to handle, that is very similar to AAA approach, but then if it is AAA, there are 7 steps. You should know what are these 7 steps. So, the mostly again you will ask when you are preparing for the exam, right. Now, if it is a AAA approach, you must know, okay, what are these 7s, right. Now, if there is ethical issue, what are the facts of the case, right, and then what is the ethical issue, and then what is the principle, right, that is going to be affected, and then what are the alternatives that are there, right. So, like that you have to evaluate alternatives, right. Then, so you will evaluate with each alternatives, and then what is the best alternatives, like that. There is one more, right. So, this, if I show you in the interest of time, the NOCLA at a glance, sorry, not NOCLA, AAA at a glance in the slide, The facts of the case, what is the facts, what is the ethical issue, what is the principle, what are the alternatives, what is the best one that you have to do, best course of action which is consistent with the principle, and what I miss is this, what is the consequences of each course of action, you can do A or B, what is good A or B, and what is your decision. I mean, this is very simple, and I said even if you forget this, right, you can apply another ethical conflict resolution framework given in the book, in your open book. Right now, with these 7 steps, let us look at the case study, and this is the question. Yeah, so now it's very easy, this type of question, if you know that. See, detail possible possible action that can be taken by Deshan, right. So, the question, Deshan is a senior associate assigned to audit of compact. During the year end audit procedure, Deshan identify, I will highlight the issue, right. Now, I have to write 7 steps, right. The first point is facts. So, what are the facts? So, the facts are, this is the fact, he identify investment properties fair value not changed last 2 years, this is a fact. Investment property comprise of several land and building companies, and they are near its production facility in Aturugiri. When Deshan inquires about management, the response received was that value has not significantly changed over the last year, and management can give external confirmation from the management expert. Now, these are the facts of the case study. Management denies that, the fact, first point. And is there ethical issue? Right. The second point, now the facts of the case study in this para itself we can identify, right. These are the facts, I highlighted facts. So, step 1 is done. So, even answer now itself we can write, these are the facts of the case study. The second principle is to know whether there is an ethical issue, right. The ethical issue would be, let us see, Deshan investigated Deshan investigated the advertisement. I have to take this somewhere else. Yeah, okay, right. Deshan investigated the advertisement of similar lands and buildings in the same area through property website. It was clear that property prices had been risen considerably over the last 2 years, especially in Aludgam area in the construction of southern housing. Because of the expressway, you know for a fact that the price has increased, and you have checked that. Further, he was questioning mind as to why property prices would not be affected by COVID-19 and how management value is able. Now, see, there are, I think that is interesting, right. He is a very smart auditor. He has found 2 things. Where is my previous note? Yeah, this is the one, right. Yeah, ethical issue is that, you know, why the correct valuation is not reflected, right, because there are 2 reasons why it need to be reflected. One is that, you know, the expressway, Southern Express highway, right. And then the other one is even COVID-19 is a reason, and then he has looked at advertisement, he has corroborated, he has done a lot of work, and then appears that this is a wrong thing, that, you know, finally the property value in the balance sheet is wrong, right, incorrect information. And you know, if this is an investment property, it's usually, if it is fair value model, it will affect the P&L as well, and you know, as a result financial statements are wrong. That is clearly ethical issue. And then the next question is to ask, what is the ethical principle? Now, in a situation like this, if you want to stand by what is right, your main principle is integrity, because remember, integrity is being straightforward and honest, and also integrity requires you to ensure that you do not associate with any reports or any financial statement that has a wrong information. The other one, as an auditor, that you need to be objective, not to be influenced by anybody, and to exercise your professional judgment, right. And now, The next point, now we have to see what are the alternatives available, right. Anyway, before completing the audit procedures, audit manager requested Deshan to continue, not to see, this is the unethical part of it, and the audit manager says, do not talk about it, be silent, not to question. See, the fair value will be confirmed by the external party. Now, is this right? One of the biggest client, this is where the self interest comes, right. Be silent, audit manager does not want to lose, biggest client of the audit firm, whom the audit managers, So, basically the engagement lead partner also acknowledged the concern raised by Deshan, but he requests him let it go for the current year. On the account, it would be difficult to generate an accurate fair value with the outbreak of COVID-19. That is the explanation the partner is giving. But then if you apply AAA, that what are the options available to you? You have two options. One is to be silent and not to do anything, right. The other one is to stand on your ground and say this is not right, for sure that you can't have the same value, it has to be changed, even not for COVID, let us say for the increase in the prices due to highway, and then you can act against that. Then you assess the consequences. If you follow what partner and manager says, no problem for you, but company will publish wrong financial statements, right. And also late, if this is found that audit firm reputation, all of that will be questioned, even it will be a problem for you. But if you act against this, then the audit report may be qualified, or the firm, you may lose the job from the firm, and then if client knows this, firm will lose the client, all of that. But finally, what is the best thing to do is to stand on your ground and be against, and that is very simple. And then even if you look at the answer, this must be the same story which need to be explained, right. So, so this is the same thing, right. So, Deshan, right, the facts of the case study, material misstatement is there, ask him to ignore that. The ethical issue is that whether to be silent or highlight. The principles that I stress you is mostly the objectivity and integrity, right. Those are very sharp points, you have to write the right one. And option 1 is to accept, be silent and say nothing about it, right. And then stand his ground that we discussed, and then you look at which one is correct, right, and that is to go against, and the consequences, I mean these are very easy, and if you take option 2, that will affect the client relationship, and then but then it's good for the audit firm. So, the right thing is option 2 done. And then there is, I think, last question that I can also help you to address, and there is one question that deals with internal controls, that is, I think, this one. Now, this one, if you look at during the month, Compaq was faced with ransomware attack. This is an attack, right. Several key modules of the ERP were targeted by this attack. The attacker requested 10 million and paid in order to revert ERP module targeted. This is an attack. Cyber security even is a part of corporate governance, right. However, using the old age-old backups in place. So, backup is very old, management recover only 90%. Right. Furthermore, using manual registers and all other things, was able to recover the remaining without paying a ransomware. Somehow they did, but it was very hard. Over the years, 2 of the main control deficiencies external auditor communicated was, one, that they have lack of control over unauthorized amendment to data file, right. So, the master data can be edited in ERP, that is a very serious one. And the second one is continuity, this is BCP, business continuity, right. and then be in the new CFO, you wish to overcome. The question to you, recommend internal control that can be implemented new CEO to overcome deficiencies noted by external auditor and to ensure attack of this time is not. Now, that is a broader question, but only 4 marks given, right. Now, what need to be written in the answer? Now, if you look at external auditor, lack of control over, I think I can actually add lot more point to this answer, right. Even suggested answer you can read. But in terms of proper answer, I mean comprehensive answer, what I advise you here is first point. Now, if you look at external auditor's recommendation, one is lack of control over unauthorized amendment to data files, right, and the second one is continuity of operation. So, and also we have to be mindful about to avoid this type of attack, ransomware and cyber attack. So, there are several recommendations you can give. One is that to strengthen, right, implement access control procedures, right, covering master data, and you can even use the word access control framework, right. And now, in this framework, when I say framework, that has a very specific meaning, right. That is, you should know who can access, right, authorization levels, right. Above this if authorization level, for example, master data for sales, it can only be changed by the authorization of, say, for example, director level, right. That is the framework that you can and then the other one is other sub part of this is restrict access. So, how you are going to restrict access? So, or else let us say access restrictions, right. How? So, very traditional control is, traditionally obviously it is password, but you have to be mindful that password, I mean nowadays you have to be updated. Nowadays there are a lot of new techniques, I mean lot of new areas because of cyber attack. Obviously you can write password, but that is not enough, and you can also talk about two-factor authentication, right. That is a very powerful techniques. Which means while, for example, when you want to access something to the company's network system, right, or the data, then you have to enter the password, and then you also get a code to your mobile, right, and then you have to enter, you have to use your mobile phone also that password, so that and there are other control, you have to remove, resign users on time, and so many things. The two-factor authentication is very, very important. Another thing that you can implement is data classification, right. Project data classification initiative, where you will identify what are the sensitive data and implement separate control over those sensitive data, right. And then when it comes to this data, I will also write the data classification, right. Even there is ISO on this, if I am not mistaken, ISO 29000, the ISMS, Information Security Management System. So, when it comes to data, these words, these principles are very important, data integrity, and this is called CIA framework, right. Data confidentiality, integrity and availability, right. That is a very important part, right. The availability again connects to things like backup. data classification for sensitive. Then in addition that you need to have up to date, now these are called the server room, you can have a mirroring server, right. There are two servers which is on time access, on time updated, right. So, but more basic answers you can definitely write up to date backups and testing backups periodically. That is very important. Maintaining backup registers, we can write a very long thing, but also remember from cyber security angle also you may have to add some point to this answer, and that is number one, control in cyber security is inform, right, user awareness, right, not to open an email when you get a phishing email, for example. User awareness is very important, right, and then especially when you are bringing other personal devices to the company, and then in addition you can the control like traditional control like firewall, and then you can also implement to test your company, to get a third party to come and audit. You can write various these things. Remember, IT is part of our life. Ethical hacking, I can start writing a very long list, but those are just for 4 marks. You can easily write those answers, and that's about it. I think I have covered all the questions now, and at the last, before I conclude this session, I want to tell you a few more things. Right now, see, I think with I remember we did series of webinars post April in the first COVID wave, and then the exam keep on postponing, not only CA across the country including A level, O level. Now with all these challenges, you should never give up your journey of becoming a chartered accountant. I am sure even what we discussed today will immensely help you, because I wanted to go beyond the paper and to tell you that writing answers, whether you are doing in computer or elsewhere, doesn't matter. So don't postpone any exam, and also make sure that when you now what you can take from today's lecture is that there are some cases even you may use open book, but don't try to use the book in the exam if you haven't studied that prior to the exam, which page may be important, and that is point 1. Point 2, now you can easily identify examinable questions from your pre-scene, which is given to you much early, and then you start writing various answers and be prepared for those answers. And most importantly, right, even now mock exam there is an answer available, but now if you have really done mock exam by yourself, I hope so, now you can see what are the gaps in your answer. Always be very mindful about your gaps. Now sometimes you may feel you not having confidence to write the answer. Now with all of that, if you build your confidence that you understand, you have the knowledge and you can apply, and most importantly if you have the courage to write bullet points, very easily you answer. That's it. The most last piece of advice, if you take the pressure in life, you are going to be unsuccessful. Even in the exam, right, operate without any pressure. You think this is nothing, I am just doing as a work, you just do for 3 hours, and I am sure you can pass the exam. With that I will conclude this session, and I hope you to be a chartered accountant very soon. Thank you.